Hello, everyone at Virtual Metatopia. My name is Beth Rimmels, and this is the panel on do's and don'ts of pitching your game to reviewers. And I'm here with my illustrious co-panelists. Um, just get started. We're going to start off with a little bit of bios. I'm a game designer and a marketing professional, but relevant to this panel, I am a writer for N-World. And my primary beat is reviewing D&D official releases and supplements and things. But I do also review other games at N-World in addition to that. And actually come from a long line of media criticism and game criticism. I used to be a movie critic and actually have a degree in film criticism. So different medium, same principles. Next, Egg Embry.
Hi, I'm Egg Embry. I review RPGs for Ian World. And Beth, we'll go ahead and start the conversation. I've never known whether it was Ian World or In World. We both write for the same site, but because everything's you just read it, right? You don't know how it's actually pronounced. The actual people that run it are in England, so I've never spoken to them. But I write for Ian World or In World, and I also write for Knights of the Dinner Table in terms of doing RPG reviews and also D20 Radio. Yeah, I have more stuff. Mainly, if you're familiar with RPGs, there's a thing called the X card, right? That it's a safety thing. If I start rambling, please throw the X card at me. Throw it hard. Shut me up. Um, Next.
All right. I was gonna say, does this count as an X card? We will not be doing that yet.
Before the end of this
All yours.
panel, at some point, I'll be like, oh, yeah.
Hi, friends. My name is Ruel Gaviola. I'm so happy to be here. I am a reviewer, live streamer, content creator in the board game industry space. I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I started on a small site called I Slay the Dragon, where we reviewed board games. I moved over to Geek and Sundry. I did a lot of different articles for them, board game reviews, some RPG stuff as well. And I've over the last year and a half or so, almost 2 years, thanks to the pandemic, I've actually transitioned over to more of the live streaming of games and doing previews and reviews online live. So this is sort of like my arena these days here. So I'm so happy to be here. I also, just FYI, I'm on the committees for the Tabletop Writers Guild and the American Tabletop Awards. I'm super proud to be part of those committees. So happy to be here.
Awesome.
And I'm
Uh,
Brendan.
oh,
I'm the
yes,
voice
go
of
ahead.
the sky. I'll be interacting with the chat and passing questions to the panelists.
Awesome. So we should probably start with, why are reviews important? Do either one of you? Oh, by the way, my pronouns are she, her. I forgot to say that before.
Oh yeah. I'm
So,
I'm he him.
name he, him.
Okay. So
Great.
do either of you two want to start with why people should bother us for reviews?
I have a number of reasons, but I'm going to let y'all go first.
Ruel?
Oh, egg just cut out on me. Okay, I think I'm good now. Okay. None of this, none of this. Reviews, why are they important? I mean, the number one thing, of course, is as a publisher, you want to get your game out there. You need people to discover your game. And one of the best ways to do that is get people talking about it. And there's no better way than to get people talking about it than a review, right? They're going to either see or read a review. And from that's like the jump point, like, oh, well, this sounds cool, or this doesn't, or hey, someone really talked about this in this way, or someone really enjoyed this. I mean, it's a launching point, right, for further discussion and discovery of your game.
Exactly. Reviews can drive sales. They drive awareness, visibility, which even if that doesn't immediately directly drive sales, it can also then drive things like, say, winning awards or being nominated for awards. Because then people are more likely to say, hey, let's check this thing out. Should this be nominated, considered, whatever? Or if you already have been, can encourage voting for it.
Agree with that. It also validates you as a creator. The handful of reviews I've received, that's like, oh, someone read it. I hope people play it too. That little thing, right? To where you're getting the validation. Obviously, sales hugely important, for what we're doing, because these games don't make themselves.
Mhm.
But definitely personal validation, making sure that's out there. As a fan, and let me jump over to that. I think reviews are important because lots of times I'm checking out a game, right? It's the first time I've looked this game up, and if there are no reviews of it, I'm not sure the game's actually out. Maybe it's only available for pre-order. Maybe it's being kickstarted. So having an actual review lets me know that the game exists.
Yeah,
Helps
yeah.
you know if the game is for you because
Mhm.
let's face it, we've all been seduced by pretty cover art, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the game is what you're looking for, whether it's a board game or RPG. It could look very attractive, it could be in the genre that you like, but until you actually play it or read a review that gives you a good sense of how it is, then oh, this game's a little more tactical than my taste, or this game's a little grittier than what I'm looking for. So it helps align the game to your audience.
I think that's a great point, Beth. Well, because we can all be seduced by all the blingy and all the shinies and all that stuff. But yeah, reading a review, that's going to narrow it down to like, okay, is this the type of game that I can get to the table with my great gaming group or my family, or maybe this looks really cool, but yeah, it's probably maybe it's more for adults, and I'm playing with a younger crowd like my nieces or nephews or something. So yeah, along with just getting the word out, it is very informational, right? It's really going to help us decide if this is a good fit for our group.
Right. Because, I mean, while yes, technically as game designers, we always want people to buy our stuff. But if somebody buys your stuff and it's not their thing, and there is no way your game is going to win them over just because taste differences, style
Mhm.
differences, um, yeah, that could turn into bad word of mouth. So you want the right people to buy your game, not just anybody to buy your game. So,
Agreed.
so next, what are reviews? Which one of you wants to take that?
So let's start out there. There's the really obvious kind of review, right? You're reviewing the game itself. You're reviewing a specific book, really, or a specific board game, specific card game. You're reviewing a very specific product. Other kind of thing that can happen, I do this occasionally. It's a cheat. You're just reviewing the game, the system, not necessarily a product, but what's powering that product. What's running it. And then for me, because I cover a lot of Kickstarters, sometimes I'm not reviewing the game, sometimes I'm not reviewing the system, sometimes I'm just reviewing the fact that this is being kickstarted right now, the crowdfunding, looking at it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction, right? Reviews and previews, right? Because I've in the last year, I was just talking about how I've transitioned to more Kickstarter previews rather than straight reviews, and that's a very different beast, right? Because you technically are helping with marketing for this, this product, rather than just taking it, stepping back and saying, okay, this game is, good or bad, right? But with a Kickstarter preview, you're trying to highlight, what makes this game different and why people should crowdfund it, right? Why am I as a consumer going to put down X amount of dollars, and you're giving the reasons why that person can do that.
Exactly. And then, in addition to previews and reviews, which are usually kind of obvious, unboxing videos are a type of review. It's not usually going in as deep. It's usually more of a, overview of what's going on. Um, but on, Twitch and YouTube and all of that, unboxing videos are a type of review, and people get to see the product, get that first reaction to it, whether that's literally the camera's over the reviewer's shoulder as they're flipping through the book for a lot of RPG books, that's the unboxing video. Or is it, for a board game where you're literally taking it open, looking at all the pieces. Maybe they are thumbing through the rules a little bit, but it's not usually turning into an actual play. That will happen later. And of course, then they'll, possibly review the game in full later on after having tried it or read it or whatever.
Yeah, the unboxing thing is so interesting to me. I never would have thought years ago that I would be on YouTube watching these things, but I don't know why I'm enthralled by them. I'm like, it's almost like, I guess, Christmas where you're opening a present or whatever, and it's like, oh, this is, even though I don't own it, it's neat to see what's in it, and it does give you a sense of, hey, again, maybe this isn't for me, but maybe it is because I like what I see in here, and I
Mhm.
feel like it would be a good fit for my group.
I'm not sure if he's still on, but there was a little kid that was doing unboxing videos of toys that monetized his channel huge.
Wow.
It was, yeah, it's like, wow. But people love seeing this kid and not, tear it apart, very systematically it takes, oh, this is for this is for this. And
Wow,
you know,
that's great. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the power of YouTube, folks.
exactly.
Favorite
Uh,
unboxing is when someone gets. By the way, if I end up interrupting anybody, just slap me. Just slap me. But if when I see someone that gets the unique product, a celebrity that gets the Magic the Gathering set that is only available to them as a creator, celebrity, whatever, those are super neat sets to see unboxed. To be like, oh, that's what a rival looks like. Oh,
Mhm.
and then one of you guys in our previous chat mentioned gameplay reviews.
uh,
Yeah, gameplay reviews. Yeah, I see that on Twitch all the time, right? That's the big thing on Twitch. I personally, I do live run throughs nowadays, and as I'm doing the run through, I'm not like actively critiquing the game, but I will be saying, oh, well, this mechanism reminds me of this, or I'll say, hey, if you like chess, this type of game might, jive with you, or even like something like Settlers of Catan, this might be, a game that fits your style of play. So in even in the live run through like that, I think there are elements of reviewing that come in. I think not everyone does it. For me personally, I think because I started as a reviewer in the industry, it just sort of like it was ingrained in me, So
Mhm.
yeah.
you do a review like that or a live run through. How long is one typically? Just curious.
Mine I specifically try to get them in within an hour and a half. I know on Twitch, like a lot of people like to go long, because that's just the way that platform works. Where the longer you're on, the more monetized you're going to get. YouTube is a different beast that I don't mess with, but Twitch. I just try to stay within an hour and a half, just because that's, I'm not getting any younger. Like that's about all the energy I have is about 90 minutes, and I want to go take a nap.
That's
Awesome.
fair. Brendan, let's check in with you. Do we have any questions so far?
We do have one. So the question is, when we get in touch with a possible reviewer, how much should we discuss the flavor versus the mechanics of our game? What should we put forward most prominent?
That's a great question. For me, I think it depends on the reviewer. For me personally, give me the flavor. I want you to give me your elevator pitch within that first paragraph. You know, is it about aliens? Is it about zombies? Or is it about, whatever? And I want to get excited about it. Like if you tell me, oh, this is an abstract game, blah, 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 mechanisms are fine. I think that elevator pitch right off the bat, get a hook in me. And then from there, I want to see, okay, what kind of mechanisms are behind it and so forth.
Yeah, elevator pitch is key. And if you don't know how to do that, there may be, I'm not sure if there's a panel for that this weekend. I know that has definitely been a topic at prior Metatopias. So check the YouTube channel for last year's panels and or the RPG Panelcast podcast. Because like I said, I know we've discussed at Metatopia how to do elevator pitches. You definitely need an elevator pitch for your game.
Yeah, I think the skill of being able to do an elevator pitch works on so many different levels. Not only just publishers going to reviewers, but especially designers. Obviously, Beth, this, designers going to publishers. Like you have to have that elevator pitch honed in. As like, hey, this is my game. Boom, 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 and then hopefully they'll get excited about it and continue the conversation.
Yep. And also too, as my day job is marketing, that elevator pitch isn't just for when you're pitching game reviewers or for when you're talking to people or possible, publishers that may publish the game if you're trying to go through someone else. It can also turn into your marketing copy. It can also turn into your ad copy. I mean, it's not necessarily going to be used word for word the exact same way, but the gist of it and the heart of it, will be there, or it will be the basis for what becomes that marketing copy and that ad copy.
Mhm.
with that. Let me add to that. I like them very much. Want the elevator pitch. I do want to know the mechanics as well. Obviously, further down, but probably the third thing that I really want to know is who you are, because that can make a real difference. I get offered a lot of products to review, and I can't review them all. And since I get offered so many, from the RPG perspective, there's not. I don't want to say there's not an infinite number of engines that can run RPGs, but there's a lot of popular ones, and or I shouldn't say a lot. There's a few. So if I know your engine, I know your pitch. What's probably going to be the differentiator is who you are. If your day job is something interesting, that may be important. If who you are, if you've done a lot of other work, if just whatever. It might be as simple as just who you physically are. That can make a difference because again, I get a lot of offers and I just can't do them all. So if you're someone that I do want to very much promote, first time creators, if I can, I very much want to promote them, and that can be a huge push for me.
So,
Obviously,
making it
also,
clear, I'm sorry, making it clear as to what it is also too, because sometimes the end world, one of us can't handle something, or it's just not in our bailiwick, or we know we would not be a good fit for this, we'll pop into our own discussion channel and say, hey, such and such is looking for a review for this. Is anybody interested? Or somebody reached out to me. My schedule's too full. Anybody want to take a crack at this?
absolutely,
You
a lot of
so that
those.
elevator pitch makes a difference.
Mhm.
So should we go next to setting expectations?
Expectations, yes. This is a good one. This sort of, flows into what we just talked, or flows from what we just talked about with the elevator pitch. You need to know who you're pitching to, right? For me, as a reviewer, previewer, live streamer, I'm doing most of my work in the board game space. So if you're pitching me an RPG right now, then it's probably not something that I'm looking at currently right now. Again, for me personally, my career has changed a little bit, so I have covered RPGs in the past. So you just sort of go with the flow and see what products are coming your way. But right now, I'm fully immersed in board games, so if you know that about me, then obviously you may look for someone else if you're taking your RPG to looking for reviews.
And for me, I'm the exact opposite because
Mhm.
N-World only does RPGs. Occasionally, we'll do something that's like a cross between an RPG and a board game because there are a few of those on the market.
Mhm.
So we might cover that. But otherwise, it's all RPGs. If you're pitching me the next, successor to Settlers of Catan,
Yep.
great. That's wonderful. I can't help you, or at least I can't help you there. Um, and by the same token, too, also, even if you're pitching the right publication, sometimes there's a difference as to the person doing it.
Yes.
So there are established beats at End World, but then there's also people who do a little bit of everything. So if you've just done, a spin off of Pathfinder or Starfinder, you don't want to pitch that to me. I do not do Pathfinder. I am the D&D person. I will review also indie games and other games, but Pathfinder's not my strong suit. We have somebody who covers that beat. Let them do that, and vice versa. You're not going to pitch them D&D because that's my jam. So
Same for me. I need to think about who your reviewer is and what they actually review. RPGs specifically for me, indie stuff is very important. It can be more mainstream. I'm not opposed to it. Whoever you're pitching to, you need to look over their stuff first. I get a
Yes.
tremendous number of people asking me to review a board game, a tremendous number of people asking me to review a card game. I've never written a review of either, so I'm not good for that.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so it's so true. Again, just as a publisher, just do that little bit of homework. Jump on Google and look at who you're pitching to or sending your game to, and that'll let you know right away. Oh, I see. So and so's reviewed these type of games. My game is nothing like that, so perhaps that's not the right fit. Again, you can find out a lot right there just using the old Google Internet search.
exactly. And obviously, if you're looking for an unboxing video, you don't go to someone who works primarily in print.
Yeah.
Just
Right, exactly.
and by the way, anybody listening, this may sound like, oh, well, that's obvious. You'd be surprised how many people break these rules.
Yes.
So no matter how obvious
Yeah.
you think this is, I guarantee you we have all had people break these rules.
Yep.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. So
And another thing, and just to continue this line of thought here, be sure, like, a lot of reviewers, they expect certain things as well. So if you're sending out a prototype versus a finished product or something, different stages of the product, you got to let them know, because I know some reviewers, they don't want to look at prototypes just for whatever reason, and I'm okay with it, but it's not for everyone. Because I know there's certain deadlines that come with prototypes. So sometimes you may have to sign NDAs and all that other stuff. It really depends. So, reach out first, do your homework, and before you contact reviewers.
right.
Uh,
And
Go
it's
ahead, Dave.
also sometimes okay because sometimes some of this may not always be obvious. Timelines and expectations for timelines, and
Yes.
does a place only review a game that is available in retail? I mean, that's one of our one of our rules at N World, which is the game has to be available in retail or it's hitting retail very soon. Um, so if you send me something, but it's not going to hit distribution for 6 months, yeah, I'll look it over now. If I really like it, I'll prep everything. But that's review is not going out now because you're not hitting retail for 6 months. The
Yep.
only exception to that at N World is, of course, Eggs column on crowdfunding. But otherwise, we're not doing reviews 6 months, a year, whatever out for something that may never hit retail. It's got to be, hitting retail any minute or it's already out.
Mhm.
But different places have different guidelines on that. So I've never run into anybody who's offended if you say, "Hey, what's your timeline for reviews? I'd like to send you something for consideration."
Yep. Yeah. And again, that's that whole sense of setting expectation. Let's be transparent as far as your timeline and what you need as a publisher, and then let's work together. I'm sure we can, come up with something that'll fit everyone's needs here in timelines.
Right. Exactly.
I'll bring up some good points. I want to double down on a couple of these things. So if you have basically an early product, oh, what do you call them? I'm blanking. When you have basically the rough draft and you want to send that and get a review, it is possible we might be able to do that in certain instances, but please let us know up front. Like any reviewer is going to want to know that's what you have. I have agreed to do reviews in the past, and then you get a rough draft, and you're like, this is it's a more difficult review, right? Because you
Yep.
don't know what to call them on, because you're like, there's a lot of problems here because it's a rough draft.
Right.
The other thing for me personally, and for a lot of the reviews I do, occasionally, very rarely, but occasionally, people reach out and they want a non-disclosure agreement signed before I can look at this to do a review. It's an automatic no for me, and it's not worth the time for me to sign that to have anything go wrong with that. I'm not going to sign that when I can wait a couple of weeks or a month or whatever, and just review it after it's live. Um, but
Yeah.
that's just me personally. If you're going to ask for a non-disclosure, if that's something that you feel you need, absolutely ask for it. But it may not have, it may not be universally accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. Going along those non-disclosure, thing. I've worked with publishers before with non-disclosures, and I've signed them, but with the knowledge that I'm not doing a review. I am looking at this. This is an early look for me. It's an early preview. I'm not writing anything. I'm not doing anything
Mhm.
until this is the non-disclosure is done and so forth. So yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, I haven't had anybody pitch me anything that required a non-disclosure. Now, that said, I have dealt with embargoes, and that's a little
Yes.
different. And
Mhm.
especially, I mean, embargoes were a big deal in my movie review days, which basically means that, hi, we're letting you see this thing early, but your review cannot release until X date. And of course, now with social media, now the equivalent of that is your review can't drop till this date, but also to there may be a separate date for social media. So long as again you're not giving away a review. So you can say, hey, I attended the premiere of so and so, I loved it. but you can't say anything about what's in it until the embargo passes. Um, and so I have dealt with embargoes on games. And if, and that's fine, just make it clear to me that, what's the embargo date, and, if I'm reviewing it, I'll happily, honor it. But you've got to be clear on that.
Yep, absolutely.
Go
Again,
ahead,
if
go
we're
ahead.
setting expectations.
Let me ask you a question on embargoes. This has happened to me more than once. I get the email, right, saying, hey, here's the information. It's embargoed until 2 o'clock today.
Mm-hmm.
You get in the AM and you're like, okay, I think I can hold on this embargo. I think I can make it. Do y'all get like just kind of like, I guess I was the last person to be informed, maybe? I don't know.
Press releases are the weirdest things.
Yeah.
And some of the companies that I deal with, it's funny because they'll tell me that they're sending it as soon as, no one else is getting this first. And yes, other people are getting it first. So it's
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
it's a crapshoot. Sometimes they list an
It is.
embargo date, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they send me a thing with an embargo date, but they send it to me after the embargo's already passed. I don't know how much of this is they're disorganized or something changed, or
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that can be a
Understand.
little bit of a mystery.
Yep.
Do we want to take
Uh,
another question?
sure.
Oh yeah.
What are red flags you see in pitch emails? Conversely, what are some clues that the person emailing you has done their homework?
Hmm.
Red
That's
flags for me.
yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Egg. You're good.
Red flags for me. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, when I get board game review offers, and they're literally like, "Hey, we want to mail this to you," so like they're really like they're gonna throw some money, to where it's like, "Hey, we're gonna put this in the mail," and it's like, you're just putting product in the mail because like I'm not the person that's gonna be able to review that. Like, if you give me a PDF copy, hey, it's what it is. No physical cost to that, right? Relatively, but I've had a lot of offers from people that they're going to send me something. They're like, I'm never going to review this, and I appreciate the offer. That's very flattering. But so that's one
Yeah.
red flag. Another one is for me personally. Kind of, I play all RPGs. I lean more indie, and occasionally I get sent one by. I don't know how to put it nicely. Like, we're not politically aligned.
Mm.
Okay.
It's just like, thanks, I guess, but got to go a different way on this.
Yeah.
I'll take it away from there.
Yeah.
Red
Red
flags
flags
for.
for
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Yeah, red flags for me on the board game side of things. If I get someone saying, "Hey, love your channel, love your reviews. Can you take a look at this game?" And then I look at it, and it's basically like a clone of Cards Against Humanity, and it's like those folks, those are a dime a dozen. And it's if you watch my Twitch stream, it is a family friendly channel, and these type of things they're not going to work. And to me, that just says someone wasn't doing their homework, and this is just a mass email, which is fine, whatever. But it's for me, it's a red flag. It's going into pressing delete at that point. So that's the big one there. If it's something that I can tell is not they don't know what my channel is all about or what my reviews are all about.
Yeah, red flag for me, obviously, that they haven't paid any attention when they're saying, but I love your Pathfinder reviews. You've never read one of those because I've never written one of those. So that's, obviously a red flag. When they're really pushy on the fact that I'm going to love this game,
Yeah.
there's a line between enthusiasm and creepy.
Yes.
And really kind of, you will absolutely think that this is good. No, because I'm probably not. Um, so that's kind of a red flag. Trying to think what else. I haven't really gotten anybody sending me things that are as aesthetically or politically mismatched because I'm probably too mouthy and they know better, I guess. Or I've just gotten
Nice.
lucky. I'm not sure which. But yeah, so that's knock wood. I maybe have just jinxed myself for that one. But yeah, the pushy thing. Oh, and absolutely, please do not talk down to the reviewer in your pitching mail.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speak
Um,
that truth.
yeah, if you're trying to, and again, like I said, my primary beat and world is D&D, so I'm going to use that as an example. If you're pitching me your third party, D&D supplement, and you're trying to explain to me what D&D is, I've probably been playing D&D longer than you've been alive, first of all. I definitely have dice older than you, most likely. And yeah, you obviously haven't looked at my reviews because I kind of know the game. So yeah, don't
Love
be
that you have
patronizing
dice older
when you talk to me.
than That's
I,
brilliant.
I love my dice, and yes, and I still have my original sets of dice. So yes, I have dice older than some of the people who have sent me material. Yes, most definitely.
Going along those lines, I've had exchanges, and this is another red flag. You're talking about pushy versus being like passionate about your game versus being
Hmm.
pushy. Yeah, not talking down to reviewers. I've had a conversation, and I mean, this was maybe like 2 years ago, where they sent the game, and then or they sent the pitch for the game. I was like, yeah, I don't think it's gonna fit. It's not a good fit. Blah blah blah. And they came back, and they were rather than say, okay, cool, no problem, they came back and sort of not really attacked me, but sort of did that gatekeepery thing, like, oh, so you don't really play this game, so you don't know that. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm an omni gamer. I play all kinds of stuff, but
Hmm.
I know that your game is not a particular fit for me. So don't get in those type of don't do that, folks. They just if it's not for us, it's not for us. Nothing wrong with
Right.
that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, just on the flip side, someone was talking about when can you tell someone did their homework?
Mhm.
I always appreciate, again, it's not just for just for an ego thing, but I appreciate when they say, "Oh, I really like your review," and they give me like a specific review that they liked, or
Mhm.
they read, or they, "Oh, I really liked how you played this the other day on Twitch," and it's like, okay, cool. So I know that they've either watched it or at least scanned it or something. So that tells me that, okay, maybe they think that their game would be good for this, for my channel or whatever. So I appreciate that. I think that's a good way to approach a reviewer or previewer.
Exactly. Like if they turn around and say to me, like, "Hey, I loved your article on the X card. I've come up with this safety tool that I think that you will like." Um, sure. Or, "Hey, you made this comment about you appreciate this genre, when you reviewed such and such, so I think you'll like this because it's the same genre." Yes, that's great. Um, that said, I am a little contrary on one thing, which is I'm busy, so get to the point.
Yeah.
If you take a couple sentences or a paragraph to say that, that's great. That's wonderful. That's showing you did your homework and you're showing why this is aligned. Please don't take 5 pages to do it.
Yeah, and that goes back to the whole elevator pitch, right? We want, do the elevator pitch and then, do a sentence or two, say, hey, I like this part or this article that you wrote or this video you did. And then from there, oh, and by the way, here's a game that I think would fit for you.
Right.
Yeah. Short and sweet. Yeah, there's none of us, come on, folks, none of us have all the time in the world. Let's, get to the point, as Beth was saying.
Yeah. I come from a newspaper background and I've been
Mhm.
technically on both sides of the pitching desk because, like I said, working in marketing and such. So I do pitch certain things for my clients, but then also, too, I've been the editor that stuff has been pitched to, in addition to, the reviewer and everything. Um, so you want to think in terms of like I said, elevator pitch or press release. Keep it short, keep it sweet. If you really think the entire history of the development of your game is pertinent for me to understand this game when I review it, okay, but make that a supplemental document.
Mhm.
Don't make me have to weigh through that to get to the point of what you're saying. You know,
Exactly.
um,
Yeah, in newspaper terms, right? Don't bury the lead.
yep,
Let's see it right there. Above the fold.
right. Yeah, make that a supplemental attachment if you really think it's important. It's probably not, but if you really think it's important, But make that thing the elevator pitch or the one page, press release pitch, get to the point.
Mhm.
I go to as many conventions as I can, not just online, but I was at Origins not too long ago. And one of the things that will always help is that personal interaction, right? Meet a lot of people at the conventions. I try to wear a very prominent name tag since my name stands out, hopefully. And people do recognize me before I recognize them. Walk up and talk to me, tell me what. Normally, at the convention, it's not like, oh, we're doing this right now. We're talking about stuff 6 months, a year in advance, right?
Mhm.
That way, I know something's coming. I can make a note of it. We can come back to it. So when they pitch that to me, I'm prepared, or at least interested.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great point. I was just at Gen Con last month, and I talked to a bunch of publishers. Same thing. Where we're setting expectations, right? It's like, oh, hey, Ruel, in 1 year, here's what we've got lined up for the next year. And so again, mental note, and I'll physically write it down either on their business card or on the back of my own. It's like, oh, okay, I know that AEG is coming out with these games next fall, and I can sort of like start tuning in and setting my own timeline, and seeing if we're gonna be able to work together.
Which is a perfect segue into timing and when you're asking
Yes.
for reviews. So thank you for that. Do you want to take it from there since you handed the great transition?
Well, now I'm a little like, okay, what am I going to say next? Yeah, as far as timing, we talked a bit about it so far throughout today, the panel, where set those expectations, share your timelines. I mean, I don't think there should be big secrets as far as you really want to work with reviewers and make sure that number one, we have the time to do it, but number
Mhm.
two, that you have the time to get your product ready and in shape for a proper review, right? You don't want to, as Egg was saying, you don't want to send a rough draft. Like that's going to cause more problems than anything, honestly. But again, on for my side, board game side, if you're going to send me a prototype, that's fine, but let me know I mean, is this like a really close prototype? Is it the final prototype, or is this the first like prototype you just threw together, did some stuff at Office Depot and you're sending me? I mean, I could probably tell, but let me know too, like that way I can, as I review it or take a look at it, I have those expectations, like, and I can share that with my audience. Like, hey, I'm playing this game right now. Not everything's final. There's gonna be some new artwork coming in, or maybe they're gonna change some of these, little, tokens from cardboard to plastic or to wood or whatever. My audience and any audience wants to know those things, right? So again, as far as timing, let us know. Hey, in 6 months we have the end product and it'll be ready to go, or
Mhm.
whatever the time is.
And ask about your reviewer's lead time because
Yes.
everybody has a different lead time and it depends upon what they're writing about and what publication and what type of review. Obviously, an unboxing review is going to take less time than reading a 300-page RPG book and giving an
Mhm.
in-depth analysis of it. Um, so feel free to reach out to somebody and ask, what's their lead time, even if you're not doing the full pitch at that point, but just to say, hey, I have something I'm interested in sending you, what are your guidelines and what's your lead time? And conversely, if your game is coming out November 2nd, okay, do not contact the person on October 30th or, even October, 25th, and expect that review out on release day. It just doesn't work that way. Um, we have
Yep.
lives. A lot of us have day jobs in addition to, what we're doing. Um, and again, it takes time to look the game over, review it, digest it. If it's an RPG, then, reading the book. If it's a board game, because I've also done board game demos. Sometimes when I'm prepping for a board game demo, I want to play it a few times. So I really feel like I have a handle on it, So
Mhm.
for review, maybe I would be, doing the same thing. That doesn't happen overnight, And so don't get, and yes, I understand that you want the review out on your release day. That just might not be feasible because they may have other things in their queue before you. So you got to be a little understanding, a little flexible.
I've had to where, because you mentioned length of product, I've had to where I've gotten 2 and 3 books in the same package,
Hmm.
and that is daunting.
Hmm.
will almost always make me go, I need to circle back to this.
Right.
And I'm going to be slow at that point. And that's on me. But it's just, it's overwhelming. Because, like you said, an RPG book, it's going to be 300 pages minimum. If there's 2 or 3 of them, and you're like, I got to go to bed at some point. Like,
Yeah.
I'll come back to that.
Right. Yeah, lead time, I think, especially as we come up to the holidays too, everyone is trying to get, some, press or reviews or whatever for the holidays. You need to calculate that in. It's not just you that's contacting us, it's everybody. So normally I ask for a 4-week lead time for my stuff, but if you're coming to the holidays, you better add a minimum. Right now another 3-4 weeks on top of that, so if you're planning for your December rush in November, you're already too late. That you need to be working on that June, July, August minimum. So yeah, just things to factor in as a publisher. When you're reaching out, the lead time is very important, especially around the holidays.
Right. Depending upon the outlet that they work for and what the audience of that outlet, is interested in and a million other factors. Look, if you're an indie RPG, I could love you to death. But if, you've hit me at a certain time and D&D has released its new book, I am obligated to review the new D&D book first because that is what drives traffic on the channel that I'm on. So I'm going to fit you in as soon as I can, because I think your thing is awesome. Um, but it is business and that's what pays the bills. So I've got to get that out first, like it or not. It's just sometimes how business goes. Otherwise, like other times a year when there is no big D&D release around, I have much more flexibility to be able to, you know, try to hit a date or prioritize, the other games and so forth. So it depends. And by the way, YouTubers especially, because everybody wants to be that first review or that first handful of reviews, um, for whatever the hot thing is, so you have to be a little understanding for that if you're not the big dog, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, let's see. Do we have any other questions, Brendan?
We do. These next two are from two different people, but they both have to do with Kickstarter, so I think it's best to tackle them. Does a Kickstarter campaign make publications more inclined to cover a game? And are there reviewers who cover playtest versions of games during a game's Kickstarter?
So, oh wow, interesting question. I'll answer part of that.
Mhm.
Reviewers who cover playtest versions of games during a game's Kickstarter. I do paid previews for my own channel and also for Rahdo's Run Throughs channel. So these are both board game based channels. And when a publisher has a Kickstarter, they have they'll reach out to us and say, hey, we would love to do a playthrough video. And then what we do on Rahdo's channel, we'll play through it. One of us will play through it, and then we'll have our final thoughts on that. So it's sort of like a playthrough / review at the end. So yes, we do that. I'm not sure as far as the RPG world is concerned, but on the board game side, I do those paid previews with some final thoughts as sort of a semi review. Again, we could talk I think that's a different subject, but yeah, we do that on my side.
I think most of the stuff I like I said, I really don't touch crowdfunding or Kickstarters because I know other people who do that. Um, so most of the people I know who are doing reviews or previews for a Kickstarter, it's either like I said, like Egg's doing, or it is a paid preview. It's one or the two.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't really handle those myself.
Hmm.
For RPG, since it's RPG, right? It's a small part of tabletop gaming, right? In terms of the dollars made. So for a Kickstarter, I cover what is interesting to me. You know, if I know you, more likely to cover it. But there's specific people that I'm going to cover their stuff. Uh, So, to get too far into the weeds on this, but the creators themselves, if they're on the spectrum, because I don't think there's a level playing field for everyone based on ethnicity and backgrounds and preferences and all sorts of stuff. So if you're not white, okay, if if you're LGBTQ plus, I am more likely to want to cover your stuff. Not that I'm not going to cover all white people stuff, because, but I am going to try and give a voice to everyone that I can. So if you reach out, with a Kickstarter, you're wanting to present whatever thing, I'm going to want to give you a voice for that. If you're reaching out with a prototype, so it's not really ready to go, and you want me to play that, I may not be able to as a prototype, right? But for an RPG, if you want to run a game, I'm absolutely for that. And then I can talk about the game and how it actually played, and anything that's not there because you're still developing the product, right? Because you're running the game, you'll be able to fill in the blanks. So that'll be awesome. And I'll be able to see how the game works and be able to enjoy it more and give a proper review for when it comes time to actually do the review of the Kickstarter. I went too far into the weeds.
That's okay.
Oh, that's fine.
Circling back though to the first half of the question, which does a Kickstarter campaign make publications more inclined to cover a game? That's going to depend upon the reviewer and the publication, I think. In my case, not necessarily. That said, I mean, obviously a Kickstarter that does really well attracts attention. It's just
Yeah.
nature of the beast. Um, but whether it's something somebody self-funded, or it's a Kickstarter, I really just want to see what's the game about, what's the genre, what's the setting, what's the purpose of the game, what's it trying to evoke, what's it trying to feel, and who made the game. Is there an interesting story behind the people who made the game? And like I said, if Kickstarter is one way to get my attention for that, but it's certainly not the only way. And for me, it's definitely not a necessarily preferential way. Just get in front of my eyeballs with something interesting, and let me have
Yeah.
slots in my review schedule. So
Yep. Yeah. Just you were talking about interesting stories, right? And is the story going to grab me? And so I do another show with Becca Scott on the Good Time Society. Do a show called Good Looking Kickstarters. And what we do is every 2 weeks we have a couple of dozen Kickstarter campaigns that are being funded, and we take a look at those, and we do it's about a 10-minute show where we'll just talk about the ones that really caught our attention for whatever reason. And if there's a story, and we do RPGs on this as well, if there's a story element, or even as Egg was saying, something about the creators, right? So whether it's people of color or underrepresented minorities, well, a lot of times we will latch onto that, and let's give them a boost, because we believe in what they're doing. So during our show, we'll just talk about those games and say, hey, take a look at this might interest you as well.
sometimes if I can't review a game because it's not ready yet, but say it's going to Kickstarter or something like that, depending upon the story behind the game, instead I'll do an interview, so it's still publicity, but it's not a review because the game, like I said, it's not fitting the criteria if it's not ready to go yet. One that I did that for, and I'm completely blanking on the proper way to say the first name of the title, but it's Blood in the Banquet Hall. It's the game by Sen Fong Lim and Banana
Oh
Chan.
yeah, yeah.
Jiangxi?
Jiangxi, I think you're correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was afraid I'm saying it wrong. Hopefully I'm right or
I
close.
think you're correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think they just came out with another one. Did they just launch another RPG the other day?
Ooh,
Oh, is it
I
two of them?
yeah.
I think, well, Jiangxi I think just hit retail. And
Yes.
then I think Sen Fong has a new game hitting Kickstarter or something, but
Yeah. Yeah. I thought I just saw something.
yeah.
They're prolific. I love those two.
Oh, they're amazing designers. But like I said, just due to the timing, I couldn't review it because it was going to Kickstarter. It was not ready for retail yet. But the story behind the game was really cool. So I interviewed the creators because it's a RPG board game hybrid, and it's about um, immigrants running a restaurant in 1920s Chinatown, but slowly, due to the pressures, they're becoming a certain type of vampire, basically, because it's the
Yes.
pressure of life is eating away at them. It all ties into Chinese folklore, and it's a really cool game that
Yeah.
covers a lot of really interesting ground. So I did as an interview instead of a review. So again, talk to a reviewer up front and say, hey, here's what's going on. Do you have any interest? And if they're interested, they'll come back at you with something. Like in this case, I pitched an interview because like I can't do the review yet because it's not ready for review. The game was, but not by my publication standards, because it was a year ago that I did this now. But they were happy to have an interview because again, you're talking. There's a really cool story behind the game, and you're still getting the publicity.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I can jump in real quick. So since it came up, they got the two Kickstarters. I'm connecting them because, and I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly, but Banana Chin.
Mhm.
Banana
Banana Chan.
Chan. Hmm.
Thank you. See, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all a lot. So you got two Kickstarters right now, so I thought I'd toss that out there. Suburban Consumption of the Monstrous, which is actually a LARP. It's an anthology. Sounded interesting to me. And then the other one I'm looking at is Exquisite Crime. And
That's
that
the
one
one
I
I
have
was
not
thinking
finished even reading over what it is about. I just know they're doing it.
of. Hmm.
Yeah, they're amazing. One other thing I did want to loop in real fast because we're kind of winding down time wise is the other really important thing to remember when you are pitching your game to a reviewer is sending us your game does not guarantee a good review. There are too many people who do not understand this point. If you want something that only says the good things about your game, that's a paid advertising.
Yep.
And there are people out there with channels who will do that, But if you're sending it to me or my esteemed colleagues, you're getting our opinions, good and bad. Now, personally, I don't like beating up on things. If I think something's really horrible, I may just decline to review it rather than, beat something up. Um, but if I think it's basically good, but it has these few glaring flaws, I'm going to mention the few glaring flaws. And you are perfectly aligned to not like that. But following up with nasty emails to the reviewer is not a way to advance your career.
Yep. 100%. That's so true. Um, when I was doing more reviews online, written reviews, for the most part, I had good response, and I even found that I was very fortunate when I would not really, when I didn't like a game, I tried to be fair, right? I'm going to point
Mhm.
out what I liked about the game, but then I'm going to also point out what didn't work for me. Again, it's there's so many games out there that it's not like I'm trying to attack you personally, the designer or the company. It's not personal. It's just, again, this didn't work for me because I am A, B, or C type of gamer, right? So, and I do make that whenever I would criticize a game, I would make that clear. Hey,
Mhm.
this is not for me because maybe I'm not into this type of mechanism or whatever. I didn't like the theme for this part of the game or whatever. So as a reviewer, we're gonna be fair, but we're gonna be firm. We're
Mhm.
gonna say, this is what we liked, this is what we didn't like. And again, it's not personal. It's just, that's the way we review games.
Yeah.
Let me ask y'all this. I had I had a review, and anyways, the person did not like the review. Told me very emphatically online. We get, I guess it was a year later, they reached out for another review. Like I was like, you didn't like the last one. I mean, maybe this will
Yeah.
be different, but you told me I was a jerk. So where are we going with this?
You don't know. Do they think they're going to win you over with their new thing? Which maybe they could.
Good, they
Yeah.
actually could.
But yeah, if you're calling people names because you didn't like their review, you're hurting your chances of getting the future review.
Yeah, that exactly 100%. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like we're not going to forget those nasty things you said in that email. It's I don't know why you're going to reach out again, but yeah.
Yeah. So, Brendan, do we have any final questions?
Yep, we have one last question, and then we probably be at end time. Is it alright to send games for review that have already been released, just not widely reviewed? And do we need some kind of hook to justify reviewing it now?
I don't personally, I don't care if it's, well, I mean, okay, if it's years old, no, because then it's competing with all the new stuff. But if it's been out a few months or you think something has suddenly made it relevant, I'm at least willing to listen, talk to me.
For me, older games, newer games, it's all good. Like obviously, it's on Kickstarter for what I do. We're good. But if it's an older game that I was unaware of, because a lot of games do come out, right? Stuff goes
Hmm.
past me. And subject matter does come around from time to time. Uh, so I'm definitely interested in older games. If you have something and it's still relevant, if it if it's aged badly, hey, it's aged badly. But there's still some games from the past that I haven't had a chance to play or review. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I would totally welcome an older game, and for that fact alone, we can't play all the games all the time. So maybe this is a game that I've overlooked, or it flew under my radar. And also, it's a good opportunity to say, hey, this game has been around for 10 years. Does it still hold up? That's
Hmm.
an angle that we could take as a reviewer. Does it still hold up? How does it compare to the latest version of the hot new game? It may be similar to a certain product. So yeah, I would totally accept an older game on that.
Also be a hook that you're not aware of because I, I'm going to get it into my schedule eventually. A lot of stuff has been bumping it because this one is not time sensitive. But there's a game that's been out for about a year and a half that I am planning to review because it ties into something else, which I don't want to name because it's going to then say pretty much what this thing is. But it ties into something else on the market um, that people probably aren't necessarily connecting one on one, but it's totally relevant. And it's going to be an interesting angle on reviewing this game and this other thing in one piece. Um, so as soon as I get my head above water with time sensitive reviews, that's happening, even though it's an older game. So yeah, at the minimum, just ask. And nothing hurts by asking, so long as you're polite.
Yeah,
So,
there it is. Yes.
indeed. You toss this one other out. This week's article, D20 Radio, I reviewed the Wheel of Time RPG, which was for Dungeons and Dragons 3E. It came out in 2001, I think. So obviously, it's Wheel of Time. It's relating back to Prime's doing the series and all that. So it just made sense to, and it's a super, super, super high level review. But it made sense to go ahead and do that. So there are plenty of reasons to go back to an older
Mm.
product and look at them now.
Yep. Yep.
Agreed.
Um, so I think we're winding down now. So where can everybody find you, lovely gentlemen?
Egg?
Uh, Ian World or In World, D20 Radio, Knights of the Dinner Table. Please go buy an issue. Doesn't actually help me that you do, but if you like that comic to keep going, I love it very much.
And
And
Jolly's a
other than
great
that,
guy.
you can indeed. You can find me on Twitter as Egg Embry. You can find me on Facebook as Egg Embry. And while I rarely ever get on Instagram, I'm either Egg Embry or Embry Egg because for some reason I have two accounts.
Nice. And friends, I'm Ruel Gaviola. I want to thank Beth and Egg and everyone here. Excuse me, for having me on. I really appreciate your time. And you can find me on the interwebs all over the place at Ruel Gaviola. I'm mainly on Twitter, but you can find me on Twitch playing board games all the time. I'm also on the Good Time Society's YouTube channel and Rado Runs Through YouTube channel. I am also one of the co-founders of Tabletop Live Network. This is a monthly event where we live stream board games 24 hours straight. At the end of every month, we've got an event coming up tomorrow. I've got my costume. We're doing the Halloween Spooktacular. So please join us at the Tabletop Live Network. That's TLN. And yeah, find me on the interwebs, friends.
That sounds awesome. I didn't know you were doing that tomorrow. Um, that is very cool.
Yes, thank
And
you.
again, I am Beth Rimmels. game designer, marketing professional. You can find me on Twitter as @Beth Rimmels, Rimmels. You can also find, I primarily talk about games on my other Twitter account, which is @awesome, the number 8, followed by the letter S RPG, so awesome 8 RPG. You can also find me at nworld with the handle brimmels, Brimmels, and find all my reviews there. And possibly popping up at some other things in the near future that I can't quite talk about yet. But so yeah, and also too, I also have two more panels this weekend. I have one 4 o'clock tomorrow on pass-fail conditions in games, and I also have one tomorrow at 5 p.m. on accessibility, ADA accessibility in website design and marketing, because you want your website and your marketing to be accessible for everybody to find. And other than that, thank you to the lovely folks at Metatopia for hosting this panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.